Hey guys, look, it's a snow day today. Hey guys, welcome to the first video of 2022. Feeling a little bit nostalgic today. I'm back home, it's a snow day, things are closed, all these kinds of things. And so I'm at home today, filming from home, just like old times. So I felt like I left 2021. The last video that we did was actually a live stream. When I get to the end of the year, there is no Vlogmas, there is no 12 days of YouTube vlogging. None of those kinds of things are in my realm of thought. It's just, I can't imagine doing any of those kinds of things in December. It's just way too much. But at the end of the year, I just feel like I have completely run out of that creative energy that you need in order to make these videos, in order to make content, in order to make things. And a lot of my energy was put into things that I couldn't necessarily talk about or show or all sorts of things like that. And so I feel like I left 2021 rather abruptly, and it was like, okay, let's do a live stream. See ya in the new year. And now here we are. It's already 2022, and I'm looking at starting this new year and kind of reflecting back on the year that's happened, what has happened, how things have changed, how things have evolved, where I have evolved, all of these kinds of things, and wondering where 2022 will take us. Obviously, in the past couple of years, everybody has gone through tremendous life upheaval and change, and people have evolved, people have changed careers, people have changed all sorts of things that they're doing. And so over the course of 2021, I think that I started to come to realize that where I am and how I have evolved and how I am changing and all these things. One of the big realizations that I had over the course of 2021 is the idea of having an identity in being a multi-craft maker. And I think that a lot of times we identify ourselves as I'm a knitter, or I'm a crocheter, I'm a spinner, I'm a weaver. And I'm starting to think of myself in a different way. I'm starting to think of myself not as these individual kinds of makers, but let me try to explain. I think when I started back in 2004, writing a blog, writing SweetGeorgia, that was sort of my identity, is that I was SweetGeorgia. I was this entity. I was the voice. I was all of those things. And so that is one aspect of me. So my identity in SweetGeorgia is to be a business owner, to be the leader of a team, to be sort of the creative director for a lot of the ideas that we create, or the collections that we create, or the colors that we create. All of those things are very much things that are in my realm. And then in 2017 we started the School of SweetGeorgia, and through that then my focus became to be a teacher. I'm an instructor, I'm an educator, I'm sharing with people passion and knowledge and trying to encourage people to come along this journey of learning together with me. And for a long time now, in the background has been percolating this idea of being a designer, and this designer side of me has never gone away. It's been with me since I was probably about 19 or 20 when I first started my design firm. And I did communications design, I did graphic design, I did web design for clients, and I did that for about 12 years before I even did anything to do with SweetGeorgia. And so that design aspect of my life has always been there. I just never really tapped into it or did anything about it. And so for many years now, a lot of what has been happening in the back of my mind, a lot of the things that I want to do and learn are related to weaving, learning to weave cloth, but now learning to design cloth, design hand-woven cloth, design the colors that go together, design the weave structures that make it into the kind of cloth that I want to create. And so I am just at the very start of all of that. So I feel like in 2022, what I really want to do is I want to get rid of all of those terms, all of those labels, identification labels of I'm a knitter, I'm a spinner, I'm a weaver, I'm a whatever. Like, those are things that I do, but really what I am is this designer and this creator of cloth in whatever format it happens to be. Whether I dye the yarn that goes into it, or I dye the fiber that goes into it, or I spin it from scratch and then I weave it into cloth, or I knit it into a whatever. Like all of those things, those are the techniques and the skills and the processes that go into the making of something. And so I don't have to identify with the individual processes. I identify with the design portion. And so in 2022, I want to go forward with this idea of these 3 different roles that I have as I move through the world. One is to be this business owner, one is to be an educator, and one is to also be a designer. And on top of that, all of my other roles, like being a wife and being a mom and being all of these other things. Yeah, it's starting to be a lot of things. So I'll tell you very honestly and very transparently what my goal is for 2022. I have a focus right now on weaving. You have probably noticed that in many of the videos. I talk about weaving a lot, and it is going to be the focus of a lot of the things that I make and I do from here forward. There's a lot of different reasons for that, and it doesn't mean that I don't knit anything anymore. It just means that I might knit different things, and I might show different kinds of techniques and things like that. Now, with all of the weaving content, I have been having a dilemma that perhaps you can help me answer. And one of the things that I've been tormenting my team with this past week is, should we start 2 different YouTube channels? And one of them being Sweet Georgia, where we can talk entirely about knitting and crochet and yarn and maybe projects with people on the team and behind the scenes of the studio. And I think that that is a great idea for a Sweet Georgia YouTube channel. And a second channel where all I do is talk about weaving, and I nerd out about weaving and show you weaving projects and show you weaving progress and talk entirely about weaving, just all weaving all the time. That is my idea. Everyone that I've talked to has looked at me like, In any case, that has been something that has been going through my head, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you subscribe because you hear me talk about everything? Or do you want to hear me only talk about knitting? Or you want to hear me only talk about weaving? I think that all of those options are available. It's just that I could continue to make knitting and weaving and spinning and everything kind of videos and put them under Sweet Georgia. It's just that YouTube doesn't really like that. YouTube really wants me to do one thing and only one thing. And I'm telling you, I am more than one thing. I'm more than just this one thing. So in terms of weaving goals for 2022, what I'm really focused on right now is actually preparing for the examination of the Guild of Canadian Weavers. And so this is a test to eventually become a master weaver in Canada. For me, I feel like this has laid out a structure and a path for me to do my learning. I feel like for many, many years, I started weaving back in 2006, and I bought my first loom in 2007. It was a Louette spring loom. I love it. I still weave on it all the time. And it's been a long time since the first day that I learned how to weave. But for many, many years, I was hovering in this space where I was making a lot of plain weave that was more warp-faced, plain weave that was more weft-faced, plain weave with different materials, just a lot of plain weave, maybe a little bit of twill sometimes. And I didn't necessarily venture a lot outside of those things. And I could say, you know, I'm experimenting with color, I'm working with color and texture, I'm a color and texture weaver, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like I was scared to move forward into other weave structures in case I got it wrong, in case I made mistakes, in case I screwed up somewhere. And I think that being intimidated by the complexity of weave structures, and there's even groups called complex weavers, and they weave things that you can't even comprehend. And so all of that I found extremely intimidating, and I was like, well, I'll just do color and texture. But having sort of dipped my toe into different weave structures and seeing how amazing things can be has really sparked a lot of my curiosity and wanting to learn. Things like double weave blocks, amazing. Things like being able to manipulate color in different ways because of multiple shafts, because of working with blocks, because of doing a lot of different interlacements. all of these things become possible when you understand different weave structures. So that's very much where I want to go, but there's a huge breadth of all different kinds of weave structures. There's overshot, which I'm working on right now, and there's double weave, and there is summer and winter, and there's crackle, and there's these profile drafts. What are those? And there's all these things to learn about. And I think that for many years I was stuck not knowing where to go, how to do it, what order to do things in. And so when I discovered that the Guild of Canadian Weavers has a Master Weaver program where they're not teaching you, what they're doing is they're testing you, they're testing your knowledge on your ability to do these different skills and techniques. But what they do is they lay out for you your assignments. So for the first level, the basic level, what you need to do is you need to be able to show that you can weave a color gamp in plain weave, have it perfectly square, perfectly balanced on both sides, that you can weave a twill gamp, you know, with the 4 different sections and all these different twill combinations, that you can weave overshot and overshot variations, that you can weave summer and winter, and then you can weave crackle, and that you can weave M's and O's, and that you can design your own yardage. That's just level 1. And so if you can do all of those things, then you can go on to the next level, and the next level will include lace and double weave and other weft-faced weaving techniques and all sorts of other things. So I am using the Guild of Canadian Weavers examination list, or the assignment list, as my guide towards what I learn next and when. And so it's provided structure for me to move forward in all of these things. And so what I have done is I'm learning each chunk of content that's needed for this examination, and then I'm turning around and I am teaching it as quickly as I possibly can, because I think that the value in me teaching what I have just learned is that I'm making these discoveries for the first time, and I'm excited about it. I'm enthusiastic about it, and I feel like I'm making tons of mistakes as I go, and I'm able to reflect on those and share those mistakes immediately with someone else who also might be making those same mistakes. So we're at very similar places on the journey if you're wanting to learn some of these things as well. So I feel like this is a great way to bring new people into weaving, to show people how it works, to show people that you can definitely make mistakes and still learn lots and lots of things, but that we can all move forward together and be on this learning journey together. So I'm very, very excited about all of these things for 2022. I'm excited about the things that I'm learning on the loom right now, and just excited to share. So you'll know that in the School of SweetGeorgia this past week, we just launched the weaving study group, the first weaving study group that we've ever done in the School of SweetGeorgia, and it's for weaving a twill gamp on 4 shafts. And I designed that project in part to reflect the criteria that's needed for the Guild of Canadian Weavers program. And it just helps you learn some of these skills. You may or may not want to participate in the Guild of Canadian Weavers program. You may or may not want to ever submit your work for review. But if you want to learn things in this very structured way, this is one way about going about it. So you can follow along with me as I go through twills. And then next I'm doing overshot. I'm also doing double weave this year, and then I'll be learning and making things like summer winter. I'll be learning crackle. I'll be learning all of these things this year, and hopefully able to turn them around and teach you as soon as I possibly can. I know that at the end of the day, having a piece of paper that says that you are past this exam or whatever it is doesn't really matter. And I don't think that that's necessarily the point. I don't think that submitting and getting the piece of paper is the point. I think that submitting and getting feedback, getting someone to look at your work can be very, very helpful. The other thing that I think is very helpful is just that it's providing structure to the learning process. And so as I'm learning those things, I'm able to share those things as well. So that is very much where I am personally spending a lot of energy this year in 2022. I'm going to be focused a lot on weaving, and I have enough looms to do it now, I think. I'm going to talk about looms in another episode, but I have 3 looms at the studio that I'm working on, 3 floor looms at the studio, and 1 loom upstairs in the attic that's a floor loom, and I have a new loom here that I'm going to share about soon as well. So I have have a loom in basically every room that I access so that I can sit down and weave at whatever time is necessary. But just to let you know, just because I'm going to be doing a ton of weaving does not necessarily mean that I'm not knitting anymore. And so Sweet Georgia, this channel, we are still going to talk about knitting. We're still going to talk about yarn. We're going to talk about color. We're going to talk about spinning and fiber and all of those things that make up that multi-craftual spectrum of things, which is personally, I am going to be doing a ton of weaving. Going back to that idea about 2 channels, I don't think that right now is the right time to do 2 channels. I think that if and when we hit 100,000 subscribers, then I might split off a channel and do just weaving in another channel. But I think right now, if we can get to 100,000 subscribers, that would be amazing. It would be so great. It would be so fun just to be able to have these interactions with you and to hear about what you're making. I love seeing your comments. I honestly love seeing your comments. I may not be able to respond to every single comment, but I do read them all, and I love hearing the feedback. I love hearing about what you guys are making, what looms you're working on, what you're knitting, what your project is, where you get your inspiration, all of these things. I love having that interaction with you. So thank you so much for coming week after week for all of these years to come hear me talk about making things. And I hope that you guys will be here in 2022 as we continue to make more things with color and craft. Thanks so much for being here. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.